Ladies and gentlemen, episode 18 of the Unfiltered Football Podcast. We're back again after a good, refreshing victory in the FA Cup after the mayhem that we talked about last week at Newcastle. With that goal by Avi Vaz, in the end, we thrown that out of the window. We want to focus on positive things. A good performance, a good turnaround after going behind, a derby, opportunities for players that haven't played they haven't played a lot this season, like Nyonto and Pirot. We've seen Jack Harrison in a defensive role again, like at Nottingham. Probably Jesse Marsh would have been proud of that choice by Farke. Anyway, Ampadu at centre back too, But yeah, it was a good, solid performance. And apart from that, I will ask very shortly about to Loki his thoughts about that performance, and specifically apart from that, the big news of the day. Finally, it's looking likely, because I don't want to say anything, because last autumn, last summer, I said finally we're signing a good player. It's time to go to bed. Good night. And then I woke up the next morning and Buonanotte had gone to Chelsea. So looks like finally that we are signing Facundo Buonanotte. I don't know why I'm struggling to say the surname, because it's an Italian word, by the way. But yeah, proper signing for me. Good for both formation, 3-5-2 in the Aronson role and 4-3 on the right. So very good for depth. Probably the position we needed an addition the less compared to others, but very good for depth, and adaptability shows that we're gonna be flexible and switch again between the two formations, and it's a loan move again. And it's also good for that reason, because it's good for PSR. Anyway, Loki, your thoughts on the turnaround at Pride Park and the signing of the Argentinian, the first one actually after Luciano Becchio to wear the white shirt. Finally, he has a big boots to fill, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Becchio was probably one of my favourite players growing up. Absolutely, one of my favourite Leeds players of all time, mate. That's my era, that. But and yours as well, to be fair. That's what we were brought up on. But what a player! But yeah, I said that, didn't I? As soon as it got here we go, I went message you and I was like, I don't care how good he is. We've got a South American playing for Leeds United again. I don't know, something about South Americans and Leeds. I love it. I just think it works. Obviously, Rafinha as well is a big one. So
outfit players, though. Outfit players. Very so far a little bit mixed, in a certain
outfield
sense.
outfield, definitely outfield. But yeah, give Perry time, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, man. I'll be honest. I thought the kickoff was at 12:30 against Derby, so I missed the first 20 minutes. I turned it on, and I went, I've missed 20 minutes here, but it sounds like I didn't miss too much. I saw the main part of it. Yeah, it's one of them games where you kind of watch it and you're just kind of looking for positives, really. You're just kind of looking for players that are performing quite well, some that have not played too much minutes, that are doing pretty well and putting their name in the hat to play in the league. A lot of talk about Nonto. I thought in the first half he was quite redundant in the game, to be fair. Refused to beat his man quite often and stuff like that. But definitely in the second half, he looked like the player that, I mean, how many times have we said this? He looked like the player that we think he can be. But this is it with Nonto. It's that consistency in performance that seems to kind of stall his career. I don't think it's a talent thing at all. I think it's a performance thing in terms of consistency. We see games where he's really good and we see games where he's ineffective. It's quite frustrating because I actually quite like him. I think he's very good on his day. And he needs to find that. We do forget how young he still is. He's still very young. He came to us obviously when he was he 17, I believe, when he first arrived in
18, I think,
18, yeah. He was very young anyway. Yeah. And he's still very young now. And I think him getting thrown straight into the Premier League, not a few months after he arrived, was quite, we needed that kind of player in that moment. And he was full of confidence. He's got his Premier League move and he played really well. But then after that, I remember Sam Allardyce said on a podcast that he couldn't believe that Nonto hadn't been picked. He couldn't believe it. And then the second Allardyce came, he didn't pick him. So there's obviously a consistency thing there for me. That's all it is. If he can find that, he'll be an excellent player for us, but he needs to find it for sure. But yeah, apart from that, to be honest, I can't really think of too much that shocked me in the game or really the talking points. We played quite well. I thought in the second half we moved the ball quickly. We kind of just overpowered them in the end. We kind of just moved the ball quicker than they could react to.
Yeah.
Played well. Pirro did quite well. And that shows, we always say it's about Pirro. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about him, but we always say, don't we? I mean, I do. I think he's an excellent finisher. But there's a difference between an excellent finisher and being ready for the Premier League now or ever. It's a hard league. It requires more than that, unfortunately. Pirro could go to many leagues in Europe and do quite well, I'm convinced. He's very natural in goal scoring. He's around the box. He's a killer. He really is. And it's good to see him playing well. He missed the penalty, obviously, but it's good to see him playing well.
Apart from
that, yeah, exactly. Very good to see that. A reminder to other teams, maybe, that he can do. He's a good player. He's a good player. But yeah, happy, mate. The comeback, never in doubt, to be fair. I was quite calm in the game. I would get back into it. I knew we'd have a few moments of quality. But yeah, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, not much, honestly, because you describe it very, very properly, very well. What I focused on was, of course, apart from the fact that similar to you, I forgot the timing of the game, so I missed the first 5 minutes, trying to set up the TV. And there's another anecdote, another story that I want to tell you because it's funny, Basically, I was checking the phone, and the game was on the zone, here in Italy, basically. So the commentator was actually from my same hometown, so he had texted me like to know something about Leeds because it was the first time commentating, and I was like, oh, I need to set up the TV and text him at the same time, to describe that. But yeah, it was a good moment, to hear some of the things that I
Nice.
told him on the telly, So yeah, on the game, there's two things, Tanaka needs to play more.
Yeah.
Tanaka needs to play more for me. He needs to play more. And we need a centre back because Ampadu, of course, is good in the Championship, but can work in the Premier League in that sense, And the other thing is, we were solid because of the quality. We were solid because of the way we adapted and reacted, after the goal. It was the only shot they had basically on target, one moment of confusion again. But yeah, it was a good performance overall, especially in the second half. We grown into the game, and they faded away. They didn't have the good distances between the defenders and the midfielders, so we had a lot of freedom with the ball. And yeah, I don't take much actually out of this game because it's a specific one. The league is a separate competition from the cup, of course. Justin again, good when he came on. It was a good substitution, I think that one, because Bornau was having a decent game, but yeah, we needed a more attacking minded one on that side, and Bornau is a conservative one. He's a centre back. So we tried to play him like he's a right centre back / right back, looking at our shape, but we needed a natural one. That's why I always tell people, play the players in the natural positions. We don't need to have a discussion about, but you can adapt him and play there. You can adapt Ampadu and Greer if needed. I've been talking on Twitter actually, about because Köln and Torino were linked to Stefan Posch, who actually, if we cannot spend a lot in this window, is actually at Como. Is a good option because he's used to a back three. He's used to play as a wing back too when he was in Germany as a fullback and a wing back. He's an attacking player. He had quite a few assists, when he was at Bologna under Thiago Motta. So that's why I said, he can be a good option. I will want, a centre back, a right-footed centre back, and a left wing back, but it's not Christmas every day, so probably we won't get both, So having a player that can play on both, that's a natural in both can be a good option. But yeah, some people told me like, we are good at centre back. We need more players up front, But the problem is we literally have 4 centre backs now, and I don't expect the young players now that we signed, and Genj and Genja. I don't know the proper pronunciation. I'm sorry. he will take time. He will train for the first team too, but it will be an under 21. So people now will say, yeah, he's our fifth centre back, But yeah, the Bayo was our fifth centre back supposedly, but he was never involved even on the bench this season, and actually went to all in the end. So yeah, that's what I take from the game. Actually, the fact that we are solid, we still have our mentality. Some players took their chances, players that were playing less minutes, this season, and other players, are reliable. Like Tanaka needs to play more. He needs to play more minutes for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, man.
Yeah. So after this one, talking about Derby, of course, like I said, I've said my piece, on Buonanotte. I really like him, honestly. We were signing him in the summer to be a right winger, for a 4-3-3. He can even play as a number 10, Aronson, people say Aronson is playing like an 8 or as a second striker, but actually you can go back to the era of total football, in the 70s with the Netherlands, positions are just position on when you look at them on the graphics, the position of Aronson is a free one. He's a free role, He's not an 8 and he's not a second striker. He's like our free attacking playmaker, in the final third. And Buonanotte can be that one now that is going to sign for Leeds, I think it will be an option similar to Aronson in our build-up. And we can adapt it in different formation. If you want to revert to like last season to a 4-2-3-1, he can play in the 10. If you want to play with a 4-3-3, he can play on the right. And in the 3-5-2, he can play in Aronson's role, But that will mean probably that Tanaka gets less minutes, on the pitch, But at least it brings that, What are your thoughts on the Argentinian?
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. So I apologize again if I'm looking over here. I'm just sorting the tactics board out, getting the players on.
Yep.
But but not as it. I think he's one of them players that's not particularly a specific profile. You think of wingers typically quick, direct, kind of aggressive, powerful runners. He's not that. He's a more technical winger. I think that's what I describe him as. Likes to come inside, link up play, create. He's more of a creative winger as opposed to a direct kind of runner 1v1. But for me, yeah, I'm annoyed we didn't get him in the summer. I thought it'd have been a really good signing for us. I think there's versatility in it. I think that's what I like. There's some quotes here actually that Farke is just doing his press conference as we record this. And he says here, no need to be afraid of quality players. Every player with quality and character who can help us is important. But thin in the creative offensive players. Change the setup a little, but we have way more often played a 3-4-3 than a 5-3-2. Need players who can make things happen. I mean, that's so for me. It's and Farke always says this: don't be too focused on the base formation. Like we said with Aronson, what's his position? You can't really nail it down because it is a free role. In possession, like for example, out of possession. Sorry, if we're high pressing, he'll be in one role. If we're sitting deeper, if we're pressing down the left side, he'll be in a different role. If we're building up in possession down one side, he'll be in a different role. It's not got a specific area of the pitch in which he needs to be. He needs to be where he can affect the game, basically. That's his kind of instructions, I'm sure it must be. You be where you can affect it. That's on the ball or off the ball. If there's space to run in, you run in that space. If there's space between the lines, you be there. Off the ball, can you affect the press? You're the best presser in the team. You've got the most energy. Affect it. Do we need you to sit deeper? Do it. And that's a lot of responsibility on a player. And I think Aronson's underrated thing about Aronson is his kind of game IQ. He's always mentioned about his running. But in order for running to be effective, you've got to understand the game around you. And I think he does. But with Buonanotte, I guess there is a similar kind of role for him in that sense. I do think he's more of a winger than Aronson, but you can see him being a creative force in our team, whether that's starting or whether that's off the bench. There's definitely different roles in which he can play. Like you say, if we do go back four and play with wingers, it's obvious he's going to be on the right side of it. If we do kind of play a 3-4-3, he can kind of be that kind of the two behind the striker then, in that sense. Them two, you see where Okafor's been playing, and then Aronson kind of supporting Calvert-Lewin. Him and Aronson maybe could be the two supporting. Maybe it's Okafor's the one that, comes out for a few weeks. there's rotation there for me. And that's why I like this signing. But as well as that, forget systematically, he's actually a quality player. I think it was a bad move. I said this at the time, to go to Chelsea this early. I think he was never going to play. Look, he saw the bright lights. He wants to play in Champions League. He wants to play for Chelsea. That's fair enough. I've got nothing against that. But don't always rush. That's my thing with players these days, mate. Everything seems to be a rush to get to the top. There's no need to rush. Look at Rafinha. I mean, he was 26 when he went to Barcelona, got his big move.
Yeah.
Look at him now. I mean, yeah, one of the best players in the world. So there's no need to rush. But yeah, I like it. I think it brings versatility, some decent balance as well, depending on what we need and require. If we need a creator, he can be that. If we need a winger, he can be that. Yeah, man, I like it. As long as he's used right, and we do use him, of course. If he's coming to us, he's going to expect to play. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Otherwise, he'd stay at Chelsea, right? So, yeah, it's a good quality. As Farke said, it's a quality player to have in there who can create something we didn't get in the summer, right? We missed that profile, and we've got that. So it gives a little bit of variety, I think. And even if we're really going out there, if it's a situation where, you know, and this is not ideal. Say we're losing a game, and we don't want to change to a back four. We're staying in a back five. You know, you could take Justin off, for example. Buonanotte could come in on that role and just be a very offensive kind of wing back. You know, if we're losing the game and we need to do that, it's an extra attacker, right? So there's variety in it. So I like it. Yeah, happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see also a pattern, you know, because it looks like, you know, they're in the final stages for the move of Jack Harrison, probably along with an option to buy. There were reports about an obligation to buy around £15 million. Honestly, I found it not reasonable, not realistic, honestly. I think it would be like an option to buy with around 10 million euros, you know, because it's like around 7-8 million pounds, you know. Its real value is around 4 or 5 for me, but yeah, would be good for us. I don't think that exercises, you know, but yeah, the pattern is one out, one in a certain sense, you know, like a winger goes out, another attacking player comes in, you know, on a good formula, you know, because we know that we need to be aware and attentive to PSR, and this formula is good for us because it allows us to get a player on loan, and apart from that, you know, we still have money to spend if we want to strengthen out other positions, you know, in the system. Yeah.
So yeah, just to visualize what I was talking about earlier. So as Farke said, we play more a 3-4-3 if we put the label on the formation, I guess. I know you don't like base formations really, and this is why. So this would typically what we're doing. Aronson would be over here. Obviously, Aronson's on that right side typically. So it would kind of be the role. I think Okafor is the one here that loses out, not Aronson. Everyone's talking about Aronson. I don't actually think on current form that he's the one that's going to drop out. I think it would be more of a kind of Okafor replacement, and we could see these two closer to Calvert-Lewin being the creators. Because what we see Aronson pick the ball up in these spaces so much between the opposition and drive. Buonanotte, he can do that as well. He can pick the ball up in these areas and do the same thing. So I think this is kind of what we'll see, a little bit more of a narrow kind of three at the top. Obviously, then provides a bit,
you know,
bit more space, of course. Yeah, interchanging again.
Yeah, because he's left-footed, you know, Buonanotte, so I think it would be
attack these wide areas as well. I think that works. Aronson, of course, versatile, can attack the wide areas, can support Calvert-Lewin in the spaces and feed Calvert-Lewin. So I think that's what we're seeing from that perspective.
So this is the case instead when you play not with a 3-4-3 like Farke says in his press conference, but with a 3-5-2, you know, when we are set up in possession, you know, you have two more conservative ones, Groove and Ampadu. Stack is usually the one balanced in that sense, you know, the one reading the game. When he needs to stay further back, he stays further back. When he has the space to progress forward, he's the one out of the team midfielder that gets more forward. And the free role, of course, is occupied in this case either by Buonanotte or Aronson, you know, behind Calvert-Lewin. Otherwise, Farke, if he wants to play more attacking minded, you know, he plays Okafor behind Calvert-Lewin, you know, in that category. And that's why I said, you know, in that sense, that's why the signing of Buonanotte will probably not be a good news for Tanaka and Gnonto, because I think Dan James is still in the high regard for Farke, you know, compared to Gnonto, especially because of last season, you know, consistency of Dan James. Because in cases, like you said, you know, if you want to play him on the wing, Buonanotte, and if of course Azalon is coming to play, he's coming to play minutes. He wants to. They will have guarantees probably. They will have guarantees probably when he signs about his playing time, about his role in the team. So I think when Okafor is not performing well, the first alternative so far could have been Willy Gnonto. Now, because of the different setup, you have Aronson, who can be the alternative in a different interpretation of the role. And Buonanotte can be another alternative. So that would mean sending Willy Gnonto even down the pecking order, in that role behind the striker, and even on the wing, because you have, for example, on the left, you have Dan James will return eventually, and then you have Okafor, Dan James, Buonanotte, even Aronson, because he's played the majority of games at right wing when we're in 43, and then Gnonto, So it would be between Gnonto and James that role to get back into the team, into the team. So yeah, but it's good. It's good to have some depth. It's good to have some depth, because you have you can play different formations and you can play different players based on the way you want to approach the opponent.
Yeah, I agree. But I think for me, mate, I think just move me line. I think the best solution would be the 3-4-3 with the two kind of wingers being like inside forwards and playing behind Calvert-Lewin. But still obviously out of possession or in possession. Sorry, God, my brain. In possession can still attack spaces wide. We've seen that with Aronson. I think that was similar when not here. And like I said before, even if we're losing the game and we've got some time, we can take the wing back off. Obviously, we've got an attacking outlet on the wide areas if we are staying with a back three. These are the kind of things that we might have to do this season. So, yeah, overall, good signing for me, mate. Obviously, there'll be another player. Good signing for me. Yeah, buzzing with it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Kind of what we need, what we've been needed for a long time, it feels like.
Quite a long time. And it's always good to see a creator signing, because in the end, I've been advocating, especially in the autumn, like we need to sign a creator. Eventually, we found a creator in Aronson, but you didn't have a backup in that role to Aronson, and now you have an alternative to him, in different positions too in Buonanotte. So we've talked about Derby, we talked about Buonanotte, of course. It's still daylight, so it's still not time to don't go to bed just yet, like the famous catchphrase, because of course, Buonanotte in Italian means good night. So that's why he's playing as had you still been in the EU, he would have been an European player because he has an Italian passport too. So good to see another part of Italy. It's the third Italian player that we have in the team now, because Gnonto, fully Italian, Gav Perry, Italian Brazilian, and Buonanotte, Italian Argentinian. So very, very good to see. Anyway, moving on to our core format, after the center backs last week, we're covering the wing backs / fullbacks this week. The center backs, Duki has been linked with Wolfsburg. Charlie Crespo, another one that we mentioned in the past, is linked to Wolfsburg too. Van den Bosch, that I've talked about, has signed for Union Berlin. So you see all the pieces are like linking a spy story. Van den Bosch going to Union Berlin, Duki from Union Berlin, linked to Leeds and linked to Wolfsburg, and former Leeds player Charlie Cresswell have a link with Wolfsburg. So it's like a spy story that Sean Connery will be really proud of. Anyway, this time I want you to start. Of course, it's going to be a list of players we talk about. I focus on wingbacks, especially left-footed wingbacks. I will have my graphic at the start explaining the criteria. And Lucky, I want to hear you directly because it's a surprise for me to the players that you focus on, to strengthen and create some depth on the wing for us.
Yeah, I'll bring my names up in a minute. We just want to kind of summarize the whole thing. It's been it is quite difficult.
Yeah,
that's what we're finding. It is difficult in January. I mean, we knew this anyway. Players are in the middle of their seasons. Players have goals in their season. A lot of them are fighting for Europe. So it's difficult. It's hard. You've got to remember as well the role the player will play at the club. Goodmanson is the first choice. He's playing really well. It's not like he's just there because he's the only one. He's playing really well. He's one of our better players this season, or most consistent for sure. So this player has to be asked to accept that they're going to have a fight to get in the team. That's kind of it's. You take that away from it. You take obviously the value away. We've not looked at expensive players here. We've tried to be realistic again. Players that will probably, would you say, 10 or less million-ish around that mark?
Absolutely,
it's always
man.
hard.
Absolutely.
We try to be realistic. There's a lot of players that we really like that either have just joined their clubs, play for European teams, or are too expensive. So it's hard.
Or got
But
injured,
that's
like Mele and Christiansen, Victor
yeah.
Christiansen.
There's a few. So what we're gonna do, we'll do the same as we did last week, Andre. We'll bring yours up. We'll introduce everything.
Okay.
We'll go for the names, and I'll add mine at the end because I'm fairly sure we've got this again, similar ones. So I'll show. You might have the graphic. If you don't, I'll go through the ones without the graphic at the end.
Okay.
Don't want to waste your graphic.
So like I said, this is the criteria that I adopted. Of course, the Leeds in possession in 3-5-2, remains the same of last week. So if you want to go through each individual instruction for the players that play in our system, just pause the video and read them. But this time the title is 3-5-2, an energy drainer for wingbacks. That's something that we talked about pretty extensively, on the fact that Bogle and Gudmundsson are absolutely drained of energy after every game, towards the end of the game. So we need proper replacements. That is a very popular formation when you have wingbacks in Italy. You see teams like Inter Milan, like AC Milan, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Juventus too, play with wingbacks, and they have very often a replacement mid-game because of the requirements and demand that this formation requires from wingbacks. So I've gone again for two preferred traits. The first one has been like a more physical presence similar to Gudmundsson, with pace, a mixed approach, with the capacity and capability to overlap like Gudmundsson does, or even progress and carry the ball like he does, through the wall flank to the wall wing, So of course, like you said, Lockie, it will be a backup for Gudmundsson. So it's very easy to name great players at left back, in the Bundesliga, in La Liga, in Serie A, and say, oh, let's pick him. But they won't come to be a backup to Gudmundsson. So that's why we needed to filter that, in a certain sense. The type 2 is actually very connected to this one. The signing of Buonanotte underlines the road to flexibility, because of like what we just talked about, the capability of Buonanotte to adapt into different formations. So adding a versatile fullback / wingback, on the left for me, it will be beneficial to both formations, a similar signing to Buonanotte one, a flexible, adaptable side, So type 2, like I said, left back can play. We can play in a back four, but also in a 3-5-2, 3-4-3. And a more defensive balanced, of course, still capable of going forward in attack. Like we said, current cover is Gudmundsson and Sam Byram. Nothing against Sam Byram, but I think we need someone better, because first of his injury record, and second, he's like our Liam Cooper in this team. He's the veteran that is absolutely needed through the daily operations of the club to keep everyone on focus, to keep everyone on the ground, hit the ground running at the team. Is one of the silent leaders in the dressing room, like people that know Leeds, like him, Sam Byram, of course, Alex Cairns, now Strauk, Ampadu is getting what Leeds means, Rodham is going into that role too, Then on the right hand, we have Jaden Bogle and James Justin. Another option, like I said, in certain cases, like a derby without Harrison in that case, Farke might value a solution with one of our wingers. Right now, looking at our current squad, our wingers adapting in that position. That's something that you just said, Lockie, when we are training in a game, you can play Buonanotte. If we needed to bring in another attacking player, you can play more wide, in that position. So getting straight into that, we have a returning face in the scouting report from January 2024, Scotland, Josh Doig. So, of course, it's a returning face, This season they've been playing at Sassuolo. Of course, he stayed there last season when they were relegated to Serie B and won with a smooth operation, Serie B. 23 years old, We talked about him, 2 years ago, but from people who don't know, moved to Italy from Arts to play at Verona. Then from Verona moved to Sassuolo. Like I said, they're playing with a back four. He's playing as a left back this season. The other thing is he used to play as a wing back at Verona and at Ips too before moving to Italy. So he's effective, you know. One thing that might play in our favor is that he is now in the Scotland squad, but he needs to establish himself, you know, in that squad.
Mm.
So moving back to the UK could be beneficial for him. And it could be a similar move to what happened with Aaron Hickey moving from Bologna at the time, an a rising
Mm.
side, not the current Bologna. They were still rising, you know, to the position they now in, you know, consistently playing in Europe. Aaron Hickey moved from Bologna to Brentford. I think it could be a similar move, considering the age too, you know, and the value. He's a good balanced player, you know, attacking and defending. He's obviously playing in the back four, so it might be balanced, you know. So yeah, and he's very good with the 1-2 combinations. Of course, he's starting for them at Sassuolo. His trajectory is here. Again, for those who didn't watch last week, how we do the scouting report in this window. You know, you have all the data here, some comment from time to time, the stats from this season, and his career trajectory down on the left. Getting forward, of course, like I said, not much to say. You know, he's been playing more defensive minded. Just another disclaimer, you know, you see on FBref these charts, and they can tell you just up to 1 point, you know, to a point,
Mm-hmm.
because of course they are classed like against fullbacks. The majority of these players, it's not the case of Doyle because he's playing back for this season. The majority of the players that we'll cover are playing as wingbacks. So the stats, of course, are not matched
Yeah.
properly because they're facing fullbacks who are more defensive minded, you know, in that case. So like I said, it plays here and he usually gets forward, interchanges with Doriente down the left, you know, you can see by the map. So I think it's a good option. And going forward, I don't know, Lucky, like I said last week, if you want to add some comments on a certain player, jump in straight away, you know. So otherwise, I'll move forward to the next one.
No, yeah. I just want to say on just on FBref, yeah, it's very specific in what it compares to. As it says up there, the last 365 days, that's the whole year. So a lot of Leeds' players' stats are still from last season. It's still comparing that. Minutes as well. It's very similar on minutes. And like you said, there is obviously fullbacks will have more defensive numbers than wingbacks. They will have the attacking output. So it might look like, oh, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. That's why it's always important to watch the players. There's a lot of players I watched last night as I was trying to get the last ones in, where their FBref stats look poor, but you watch the player,
yeah,
and none of them concerns are there. It's just the system they play and what they're required to do in that system. So that's why it's really important to watch the players before you have a full-on opinion about the player. You've got to watch them. You know, if in my players that I'll do at the end, I've not got many players from many leagues. I've only watched France and the Bundesliga really this season a little bit. So I've not got players from Spain, Italy, you know, not too many from even Eredivisie this year or Portugal because I've not watched too much of them. So that's kind of what we're working with here. It's tight time and not a lot of resources, unfortunately. So, but yeah. No, I'm happy to move on, mate. I think you've said it about Josh Doyle. He's been around a long time. We said a lot about him in the last few scout reports as well. So,
yeah. And it's not done yet because the next one is another nationally from the scouting report of the same scouting report we've before seen Josh Doyle, Emanuele Valeri from it's 2026, but it looks like 2024. So in that window, you know, but it looks like that player have kept progressing, you know, if they are returning and we have moved up a league, you know. So I've included Valeri because it's been one of the most reliable wingbacks and fullbacks because they've interchanged, you know, between a 3-5-2 and a 4-3-3 this season. Now Palma are playing with a back four, but they started the season with a 3-5-2 with Carlos Cuesta, like I've pointed out in the comments. You know, an underrated player, 27 years old. You know, I think he can be in discussion going forward for Hereditary call-up, honestly, or call not as a starter, but he's been one of the most reliable, you know, players that I've seen in Italy. He's a very good crosser, balanced player, adaptable to a back four. Again, likes to get forward. It's very good with his right foot too. You know, the first time I've seen him live was 2019, Cesena Reggiana. So he was already. It should have been around 22, 23 at the time. You know, 21, 22. But he's a player that matured late in the game. You know. and he's played from the first year up to Serie A. He's played from every league in the Italian system. And he's a starter for Parma, of course. So yeah, I've included again because similar things, to Doig is there's one thing specifically here. He's playing here or when they were playing with a back three. We've seen the back three last week when we talk about Circati. When he's playing on the left, basically the game of Parma is get the ball to Pellegrino, very good striker, very tall striker, and he plays in a similar way to Calvert-Lewin. So the main offensive threat is cross from Valeri, ball to Pellegrino, basically. So it will work wonders with Calvert-Lewin. Other things that I want to add, of course, is that he's offensive minded, like I said, so he can coincide with his right foot. He's a corner taker, comes handy, in that sense, like here and here you can see that he's a corner taker, and again, 27 years old, so it's the chance of a lifetime, to even and it would be okay to be a backup, 27, edging towards the last big contract of his career, uh, having the chance to play in the Premier League, it's a 1.5 chance, and it would be all right to be a backup, but a reliable player. As you can see by the chart, again, disclaimer about fullback against fullbacks, you can see that he's a more offensive-minded player. He's not a physical player; he's a fast player with pace, very involved in the build-up, in defensive build, especially at Parma. The next one is we're looking for more experience here. 26, similar age to Valeri. In that sense, we're talking about Domagoj Bradarić, Croatian fullback, wingback. They play with a 3-5-2. At Verona, he started the season playing on the left. Now he's playing on the right, so good with both feet. But he likes to get, when he's on the right, to get inside on his preferred left, of course. I included him because he's not a top star, but another reliable player that is involved now in the setup of Croatia. He's a player that won Ligue 1 in 2021 with Lille. He used to be the backup of Reinildo. Then they signed the season after Gudmundsson. So with Reinildo and Gudmundsson, he saw his minutes short and then moved to Italy at the end of the season. He's been reliable for Salernitana, for Verona, reliable for Limbo and Codapon. So you will gain an experienced player again that will be all right to be a backup. But you get an experienced player, very similar in a certain sense to Borna Sosa. That move will be, Borna Sosa, Croatian too, move from Torino to Crystal Palace. He is a backup, of course, at times there, But Bradarić would be a similar move in that sense. You get an experienced player, reliable, involved with his national team, 26. So and playing week in and week out in Italy, so you see that he's reliable with targeted player already from the Serie A in this season. So again, here he's playing as a wing back properly. The last two that we've seen were full backs on FDRF. Here is against full backs. So as you can see, the chart is more. Is not really comparable to fullbacks because they are defensive minded, and Bradarić is more involved in the offensive side of Verona. As you can see, they play with a 3. Yeah, they are in a 5, but it's really a 3. 3-5 here. Bradarić and Frese is playing on the right now, and 2 strikers. This one is very good. You'll hear about him very soon, Giovane. Yeah, that's why I included, Bradarić. Corner taken on the right too. The next one, a smart move, that will be a very good, promising player, 22 years old, first season in Serie A, Samuele Angori from Pisa, free kick taker too, more physical, technical, very good in as a wingback, less as a fullback. His main trait is pace. He's pacey. He's absolutely fast, despite his body type. He's absolutely fast. He's a force in ground tackles. But yeah, I've seen it also last season because they went in Serie B live. I was impressed. I've seen him twice last season against Spezia and against Reggiana. So yeah, he's a player that I think he could be eyed. He will be under the radar of Italy for the future. Honestly, he had just 1 cup last season for Italy under 21s. Now he's 22, of course, out of age. But I think if Pisa go down, he will stay in Serie A for sure. So again, another player that is playing as a wingback, properly. It is reflects actually on the stats. You can see more attacking minded, more involved offensively, and corner taker and also free kick taker. And I'll play that 22, sign him like 3-4 years. You will get a player that will be an understudy to Gudmundsson. Very similar actually the way he plays to Gudmundsson in a certain sense. He will develop with patience, and you get a player that might be a starter in 1 or 2 seasons, for Leeds. Next one, I don't know if you want to talk about this one, Lucky.
Yeah, I'll let you go, then I'll add to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want me to go
Tom
first?
Reuter.
Do you want me to
No,
chat?
if you want to. Yeah, because I suspect, because you said I've watched the Bundesliga, I suspect that it's also on your radar, probably, Tom Reuter.
It was, yeah. Yeah, he was. Now, obviously, one thing that stands out about him is he's massive, 6'4". So that kind of suits can play the left side of the back three as well if needed. Doesn't need to bulk out a little bit, but 21 years old, a player is quite an interesting profile for a wing back, but it actually works. It does work there because he has a really good engine on him. He kind of has a similar build to kind of Stack in that sense, where he moves quite efficiently, not explosively quick or, a sprinter, for example, but he does move quite efficiently, and his engine and his work rate allow him to get up and down really quick, as well as being quite calm on the ball as well. And obviously you need that in a wing back role. One thing I've seen where from wing backs that are not the most physical in terms of pace and power is the game IQ, the decision making, the consistency of that decision making. He fits that profile. He makes good decisions on the ball. He makes calm decisions on the ball. And that's why he's quite a versatile player who can probably fit in quite a few roles and work. He'd work in the back four as well. I think as he grows a little bit more, as he gets a little more bulkier, playing in that kind of back three with the left side of the centre back as well would be good. I like him. He's a good player. I'll let you carry on, mate. Yeah.
No, very, very short because, I thought he's in a similar category to Josh Doig, in the build-up, in a certain sense, balanced, composed, But like you said, one other thing that I wrote down is he doesn't rush his decision and can take part in the build-up and good crosses. Yeah. So these are the things that I pointed out. And one other thing, even the fact that you can see that he's very balanced, his contribution, offensive contribution, attacking contribution, and defending one. So a more balanced players compared to what we've seen before. Another thing, that I wrote down is 26 appearances last season. This season, 12 in the Bundesliga, because he's suffering the competition of Derek Kuhn. So also he might want to play more, he might want to, but it's really tempting for a player that is still involved, of course, but is reliable. 26 appearances last season in the Bundesliga, still 21. It's young, tempting to move to the Premier League. And surely, if you are, if your choice is between staying at Union Berlin or being an understudy at Leeds, I think it shouldn't be a doubt. With all the respect to Union Berlin, it's a club I really like and a formation I really like too. Especially this back three. I think if you have the opportunity to play in the Premier League, you take it. In a certain sense. Yeah, I'll let you carry on this one too, because we talked about him before going live.
Yeah, Lucas Ulrich. Is it Ulrich or Reich? Ulrich.
I think it's Ulrich.
Ulrich. Yeah, German in it. Yes, up your Ulrich. Yeah. So there's two fullbacks wing backs we're going to talk about at this club at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Obviously, Farke's former club. I mentioned before we did the pod. He's a player that when he burst onto the scene for Borussia Mönchengladbach, when Netz got injured originally, he came on, and he was really, really impressive. I think he was 19 at the time. Now, since then, he's kind of always had that competition with him and Luca Netz. So they never really, one of them had a long run in the team. It's always been in and out, one bad performance, and then he switch, which has probably halted kind of his growth in that sense. Fundamentally, though, he's a very solid fullback. I think that's what it is. He's not a player who's going to get you ridiculous, amounts of assists or be an insane kind of output in the final third. But I think as a player that's kind of a backup to a very good fullback in the league, I think he'd be quite good. Like I said, 21 years old, there's growth there. And for me, I do prefer Luca Netz, which is the other player. I do prefer him. I think Ulreich has a lot more kind of development to go. I do think there's more parts of his game that he needs to improve. I think at times he can be a little rash in his defending. He can look a little, it sounds like I'm thinking me. I do like him, but I think we've got to be fair, right? He can be a little kind of, what's the word? Not composed in certain situations on the ball. He can rush his decisions at times. I actually watched them last night. He played 60 minutes, then Luca Netz came on and played 40, so it was perfect. But there's definitely something there. I think he has lost a little bit of confidence for me from when I first watched him. I think it was last season, it might have been the season before. He looked really energetic, he looked really composed, whereas now he looks a little kind of rehearsed in his decision making. It's very, I get the ball, I pass it forward as quick as possible. And if that option's not on, he kind of panics at times. Yeah. So, but there is a player there. There's 100% a player there. And this is kind of what we're looking for, a player that can learn under Goodmanson and become a better player. One that is not going to play a lot of minutes, and maybe that's what he needs. But I do like him. I think there's definitely potential there to grow as well physically. He's a good physical profile, I think. He works really, really hard for the team. He's very kind of committed in everything he does. Works very hard. Positionally, he's quite decent as well. I'd say he can rush at times to come out and defend, but a lot of fullbacks do that, to be fair. Goodmanson can do that as well. But I do like him. I think there's versatility in a back four as well, which is obviously something we might look to do. 21 years old, definitely room for growth in his play. But yeah, I don't mind him. Yeah.
Next one, of course, like you touched on him, Luca Netz. Because you want to add something about what you just said about him, because I think they are very similar in a certain sense. I think Borussia Mönchengladbach, like you just said, they switch very often up from a 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1 formation where Ulreich and Netz play as left wing backs, and a 4-2-3-1. So like you said, look, Ulreich played 11 games, of course, up to January 12th, because that's when I finished the graphics, and Let's played 12 games, so they are splitting, like they are alternating. It's like turns, they're taking work turns, on that left wing, alternating. Yeah.
I think Netz is at the point in his career now where he needs a move. I think Ulreich,
and he's out of contract, man, too.
Exactly. Yeah, there we go. Ulreich is a little more. He kind of came into the scene a little late. I remember Netz when he was 17. Was been talked about as his next big thing. He's one of them players that didn't quite reach that. He has had injury problems, again, consistency problems as well. But he's always had a solid fundamental base of a very good player. Very technical. I do like him in that sense. Again, defensively sound. I wouldn't say he's an unbelievable defensive player, but he's one which brings you good balance down that side. I like him in the final third when he does get there, when he's playing confidently. He's very technically sound, as I've already mentioned. Again, a player with for me who does have a lot more potential in the final third. I think he's got a really good delivery on him, a consistent delivery. Again, coming through the German youth ranks, you watch these players and their ability to play. I know that's a basic expression, but to actually play football, not just use scripted movements or kind of scripted passes, to actually, as the move's developing, use their own brain to understand what's around them, what they need to do. Netz is a very smart player in that sense. He has lost his confidence, I'd say, a little bit in the last few years. He's had annoying, consistent injury issues. He's had annoying consistencies in terms of playing, obviously with competition. And I think that a move for him is probably the best thing for his career, to be fair. And I do think he'd suit the Premier League. I think it's actually a good thing that he's not. I say it's a good thing. For our perspective, it's not a good thing that he's playing every week consistently, because then I'd argue he's probably looking to go higher. But right now, I think it'd be a great move. I do think he suits the Premier League. I think he'd like the intensity of the Premier League. For me, he's a player that likes to play at an intense level. So, and as you can see, of course, the main thing about these players, if they're played in the back five and the back three, and relatively solid in both. So there's the versatility that we require. Yeah, Netz is one of them. It's an interesting one. I'm always interested in players that at 16, 17 were hyped to be the next big thing and never quite got there, but are still at a decent level and are still so young. he's still only 22 years old, which is crazy because I remember this guy when I was at college. I think he started to come through. So yeah, I like looking at. Do you want to add to that, mate?
Now, very shortly about the fact that if you make an offer to Gladbach, of course, the player might sign on a free, already for next season, for the end of the season. Like Alfonso Federasa, for example, has already signed for Lazio from the summer because he's out of contract at Villarreal. But same case to Duki, at Union Berlin. If you make an offer, for example, Reggiana had a player out of contract, Manuel Barras, he wanted a new contract with good salary, Reggiana wouldn't get that salary, so they settled because he was out of contract for a lesser fee around 15k. You see the difference in fees compared to England. In the Italian second tier for 15k because they got him for 100k from Cosenza last season. For 15k because he was out of contract, so better to get 50k compared to nothing in the summer. And he's going to the third tier. To get with a good contract at Brescia, So similar case with Nets and Duki, if some clubs made a good offer with less value compared to the real one, or the asking price to Gladbach or Union Berlin, you get the player and the team gets a less fee compared to the real value, but at least it gets something, better than getting zero in the summer, Yeah. So next one, Alexander Plus. I really like him. I'll be quite frank. I really like him, and I really value the opinion of Ralf Rangnick. The manager of Austria. He's been involved with Austria, and he's a player that he screams versatility. Because he can play on both sides. This season he's playing less at Hoffenheim, and when he's playing also as a right winger. So last season he played in as left back in a back four and as left wing back in a 3-4-2-1. This season mainly a substitute, and he's deployed as a left winger, basically, not right. Sorry, on the left.
Yeah.
And they play with a 4-3-3. He can also play because they played this week. After I did the graphic, and he's also used because Arturo Ragazzi used to play also as a center midfielder. So he can also play as a center midfielder. He's very versatile. He's also a physical player, despite his age. As you can see, he's good. He's a player that likes to get into tackles. He likes to fight with his elbows. In a certain sense, a relentless one. He's used to high intensity because the Bundesliga and especially the footballer Ralf Rangnick is high intensity minded. And he's adaptable. He's very adaptable. So that's why I included him. And I think I will be very happy, honestly, if we sign him because he's a very versatile player. 24. So a good balance between young and experience. Of course, a player that came through the ranks of the Red RB Salzburg youth teams, always reliable. But after playing at their feeder side, their satellite club in the second tier, Liefering, he actually moved to Sturm Graz. And that's where he eventually got the move to Hoffenheim. We have already done good business with Hoffenheim, with Anton Stach and Jorginho Rotter, despite they got 35 million for selling us the myth of number 9, who eventually Farke had to arrive and turn him into his real position. Thanks, Victor, by the way. So we have, as you can see, another balanced player. Again, this season, you can see that he's more defensive minded because last season he's played in a back four. This season, when he's playing as a left winger. As you can see here, we have a 4-4-2 with, for example, Zofal, Ranac, Bernardo, an experienced player. Wouterberger used to be at Stoke City. Aslani, I think we talked about him last season. It was Elversberg, then returned to Open. As you can see, he's playing as a left winger this season, but he's used with the national team and Hoffenheim to play in a back four or as a wing back. The heat map reflects the fact that he's playing as a substitute on the left. So yeah, I will be very happy. I think it's a very good and smart signing. It will be this one. The final one for me in Germany is Max Fingerether. Loan option because 21 years old, RB Leipzig, apparently a sister club because of the Red Bull connection. It was signed from Köln. Because he had a very convincing season. They got promoted, it was a reliable player for them. But this season, he rarely featured just because he had some injury problems. since mid-November he has returned, but with David Raum ahead of him, he has played just 3 games, 3 appearances. So he needs to go and play. He's been very reliable, and needs playing time. The only thing is they just have David Raum on the left. So they will need to bring in another one. He's another free kick taker like Angori,
Nice.
The comparison I've made is Nico Williams, that kind of player, in that sense. I obviously put the formation from Köln and the heat map from Köln last season, because he used to play, as you can see, 3-1-4-2, on the left. And look at the heat map, used to be very, very offensive minded. Look, it's been more in the offensive, the opposition half, rather than in his side half, So that's why, if we are looking for PSR reasons for a loan, it might be a good option. So yeah, the only one in La Liga that I've written down, there was another player that I like, Avi Gutierrez from Racing Santander, but I didn't think he was it was ready, so I didn't put him down in the final short list. Abel Bretones, which actually means Bretons, in Spanish. So yeah, Osasuna is absolutely tailored for a back 3 as a wing back. They're playing with a 5-4-1, so he's a good mix of staying back but also getting forward. He's very good with his pace, tall, as you can see by the image I've put, physical, because of course I want to underline that all these graphics are handmade for us. We don't have because it's not full time. There's people in the space who rightly so and have the fortune to have the graphics. So for players that but the graphics that you see have been made by ourselves. In this one, in the free time, in the little free time that we have. So yeah, I think it's very similar to Gabi, honestly. As you can see, also by the heat map, and also by the chart, because he's playing as an offensive player. I've put in FBref, midfielders in this case, so you see that it reflects also on the chart. When they play, he starts on the left. They have a back 3, and he gets forward. Back 5 that transforms into a back 3 when they are in possession. So it gets forward a lot, likes to progress with the ball, tall, offensive, like I said, good timing and control, good crosses, very similar to Gudmundsson, but taller in a certain sense. So that's why I've written him down, Then moving to France, it looks like Alioski in every sense. Melvin Bard, who means like the tales of the Bard, from the Harry Potter universe, Another reliable player, 25 years old. He's the captain at Nice, but they are completely in turmoil this season. I think they still haven't won a game in the Europa League. The fans arrived after the return, stopped the team coach, got on the bus.
Yeah,
it got heated, Moffi and Bogai have asked to leave the club. They've been sending a medical certificate in order to avoid training because of the heated situation, the tension around them, But Bard, has been one of the most experienced player in that side, apart from the ever-aging Dante. It's been at Nice for years.
Yeah,
in
he's
recent
still
times.
there. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fair play to him.
Yeah. But I've put him down, because he's an Alioski type, like I said, has good offensive awareness, but can get forward. And he can play as a left wing back, as a left centre back in a back 3. He's playing as a left back also in a 4-3-3. So yeah, that's why I've put him down. He a reliable player, an experienced one, and 25. It will be okay, I think, to move to England to be a backup and challenge for the spot, of course. A good overall balance because he's covering 3 positions. As you can see here, he's on as a left wing back. He's played as a left centre back too, and when they were playing with a back 4 as a left back. There's nothing more to say. I think the comparison with Alioski is a good one. So probably better, of course, because he's a born defender. Alioski was adapted because he used to be a winger in his early days in his career. So he's more defensive minded and better defensively. But the comparison with Alioski, I think, is a good one for Melvin Bard. The other one, I think we touched about him 2 or 3 weeks ago when we talked about the early suggestions, so not much to say. Aaron Donham, Norwegian. Like I said, his wife plays for Manchester United, Céline Bizet. in the Women's Super League, you know. And she is currently out because she's pregnant. So I think, you know, it would be good for him. He's a very good player. That's not the main reason, of course, but if I were in his shoes, you know, I will try to move to England, honestly, because of course she's still at Man United. You know, actually we're laughing, but in the NBA when I do scouting reports, they even look at that, you know, all these stuffs, you know, all these informations, you know. But yeah,
man.
Donham, very similar again to Gudmundsson. I think I will call him, you know, I pointed out Gudmundsson on the right, basically. He's playing as a right wing back for Toulouse in a 3-4-3. So again, we're talking about a formation Farke just talked about in the press conference. He can be also a winger, you know. He's playing more on the right. He's left-footed, so when he's on the right, let's show the heat map, you know. He usually cuts inside and shoots with his left foot, you know. He's also regular in the Norwegian squad, especially with the World Cup on the horizon, you know. Probably he will want to play more, you know, but he'll have a chance to move to a better league because this season I think the league I think Ligue 1 has dropped. They even have less money because of the TV rights situation, you know. So it's beneficial for a player to move to the Premier League. Honestly, he's playing on the right, but again, left-footed, so he can easily play on the left and cross instead of turning on the inside and shooting. You know, very offensive, like I said, less defensive-minded, but I think a good option for us. He can play on both sides again, like James Justin. In that case, corner taker. You know, he scored, I think, against Liverpool 2 years ago when they were facing each other in the Europa League. So again, that's why I pointed it down, you know. Another one in France, 30 years old, people would say, he's too old. No, I think he's very reliable. Odysseus Garcia, former Swiss international. He will try to get back into that squad, you know, with the World Cup on the horizon. He hasn't been involved since June, you know. He's out of favor of Marseille. They're trying to sell him, you know, they're trying to find a club for him. So it would be a good option. He's lost his place. He was involved, you know, a lot last season. Him on the left, and they had Merlin, was now at Rennes. They had him and Murillo, a very good player, still there, of course. So yeah, he just played, you know, 6 games this season. He's a reliable player. Look at his career. You know, he played in the Bundesliga at Werder Bremen, Nuremberg in Germany, then moved to Young Boys in Switzerland, then moved to Marseille. You know, but he's very reliable. You know. And he's used to attacking football. If you go and see some games of Marcel, you can see him getting forward because he was heavily involved with the Serbi football last season. He will bring experience and he will be all right because he's 30, I think, to be a backup in the Premier League. Under Gudmundsson this season, as you can see, not playing much. When he plays as a left wing back or as a left back. And is good in carrying the ball and getting forward. Also good crosses, and is used because Marcel have the 2 wing backs following up. Is used also to get into the box when the ball is on the right, you know, in that sense. This one, Lockie, is all yours.
Mate, this guy's a real deal. I'll be honest. I don't usually say that. I think he's a real deal in terms of in the future. I genuinely do. If anyone's not ever watched Arsene Kouassi play football, go do it. It's a joy. I think you'll agree, Andre. The energy this guy brings to when he plays football is so good. Yeah, you know what's gutting? I didn't realise he has just arrived there from Ajaccio.
Ajaccio, yeah. Because
yeah.
they folded last summer. You know, they're playing in the non-league now in the French system. Yeah.
Oh wow. But that was for about 1 million, which means if you put an offer in, that's quite a bit more than that. There's quite a lot of money in France. It is, right? So, but got that out of the way. The player himself, he's genuinely. I mean, I've gone through a lot of names, a lot of players. I've had a look. So have you, mate. For me, this is the one I've been all week in the group chat. This is the one that stood out the most for me. His body shape, as you can see, he's small, he's strong. He looks like, in terms of physicality, he's a bit more like Nonto or James. He's very small, compact, but kind of aggressive in his running. Yeah. And quite frankly, his energy is an absolute joke. Every time this guy gets the ball, his mindset is, I want to go forward. I want to attack. But he's also reliable in that. He's not a player that will attack a lot and give the ball away 4 times out of 5. a lot of the time he creates something from his attacks. And that's what I absolutely love about him. You can see his progressive stats there. I mean, he's an absolute joke in terms of progressing the ball, both with and without, which is something that you have to look at as well. On the ball, that ball is, when he dribbles, it's so close to his foot, low center of gravity, gets forward really well, holds the width really well as well. He's honestly just a player that just brings so much energy and fight down that side. Underrated, obviously, because of the team he's at. Not one of the biggest names in the French league. You know, kind of had a slow career as well, coming through the ranks as well. Still 21 years old. There's so much to grow there, and that's what's exciting about him. I'll go out on a limb. I think in the next 5 years, he'll be playing in a top team in one of the top 3 leagues. I genuinely do think that. I say a top team, I mean Champions League, European. I'm not saying he's going to play for Bayern Munich, but a top team. I think he'll have a top move in a few years. And I think, honestly, for us, my only kind of concern is that there will already be big teams looking at him. I genuinely do think that for the summer, potentially. When I say big teams as well, I don't mean the biggest in the world. I mean good teams, competitive teams in Europe or in the Prem or whatever,
Yeah.
Go on, mate, what you say?
Let's say 7 million plus Melier, because it's his boyhood club.
Yeah, that's true. Little swap deal.
Yeah. And they have the nephew of Regis Lebris too.
Yeah, well, that's decent. I actually quite like him as well.
He's decent.
But yeah, Kouassi is, out of all the players we watched for this particular thing, he's the one that I like the most. I'll be honest. For me, the intensity he brings, it's important that there's good players out there, very good players. I've always been Robin Koch an example, who's doing really well in the Bundesliga. I mean, playing for Germany and everything. The kind of tempo of the Premier League didn't suit him. He's a guy that likes it calm, slower, not really a guy who likes one-on-one physical duels. Kouassi, to contrast that, I know right now would suit the Premier League. He absolutely loves physical duels. He loves intensity. He plays, everything he does is with intensity. Honestly, this guy's energy under Bielsa, this is one of them. You imagine this guy under Bielsa and it's game over, But yeah, I really like him. I sound really excited because I get excited when I see footballers I really like. He's one that, even when I watch the centre-backs, I thought there's some good centre-backs in there, yeah. Full-backs, some good full-backs. But something about this player that I really like. And I think if you're going to get him, I think now is probably the time before he goes for me. I might be overhyping him. I don't think I do that too often. I've just got a feeling about this player that I could see him next year, maybe in the summer, going to like a Monaco or that type of team. I genuinely could. Yeah. What do you think, Andrea?
Nah, I like him. My only worry at the minute, of course, he's a dynamo, back 4, back 3. The thing is the physicality, He's a very hard worker, but the physicality might be too much for him in the Premier League. But I agree with you, I think in like Monaco, Marseille even, I think they might throw an offer for him. But yeah, I think it's a player that will learn again soon enough, Another thing, I want to add to, as you can see, there are some graphics, where the things are not placed well, but there's a reason for that. I want you to explain myself, I did them on my other computer, my work, the one that is used for work, and it has a version of Photoshop that is absolutely a nightmare. And I had to do a rush, like 20 of these graphics, 20 of these players, I did them like in the last 48 hours in my spare time. So it was like a rush, like, I need to get there for Thursday, in a certain sense. So that's why.
Can I just add as well, just onto Kouassi, just on his defensive, because I didn't really speak about that. I was too hyped. Defensively, like, you've got to look at the contrast. So we have Goodmanson, who's very balanced, can go forward, can get back. Kouassi is more of an offensive player. He enjoys attacking more. That's where his strengths are. Defensively, he'll sit in position, he'll work hard. But yeah, he's not as balanced as Goodmanson is what I'd say. He plays very high for Lorient as well, very high. But he works very hard, which kind of repents kind of that not real kind of not desire to defend. But I've been in as a fullback, and when I was a fullback, I hated defending. I did it because that's part of the role. But I wanted to go forward. That was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the final third or over the halfway. But yeah, one to watch, because Leeds probably won't sign him, but one to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Great name as well.
Yeah. Next one, another one. We're talking about balance. You see a
Yeah.
one that is already established, 23, but he's been at Stade Brestois, moved there from Reims, and again he's playing in the Champions League last season, iconically. Then playing with a back four, so a player that is out of contract not next summer, but the summer after, so he's entering after this summer the final year of his contract with the Stade Brestois in Brittany. So yeah, another good profile, good balance. Bradley Loco, of course. As you can see, they play with a back four here. There's some other good players like Toussaint, Chotard, Del Castillo, Ajorque. Very experienced on this one. But yeah, he's more defensive minded, to be fair, but likes to get forward. He can get forward. You can see by the heat map he covers more because he's playing in the back four, But another player, honestly, that will be like, of course, different body type, but will be more comparable to James Jost in a certain sense, getting forward the way he plays, honestly. So that's
I was just going to add to that, mate.
Loco.
Yeah. Great last name as well. His initials are B Loco, so
Loco.
Almost. People at uni actually used to call me Loco. That was my last name that they called me. So but what I will say about him, I think, like you said with James Justin, he picks when to go forward. He's not someone that's going to endlessly go forward like maybe a Kouassi. He is very reserved in when he decides to go forward. But what I will say, when he does go forward, he does it with pace, he does it with precision, and usually it's the right time. He likes to overlap. I'll just add that little bit to him. Yeah, very, very kind of reserved in choosing, but when he does go, he's usually quite effective. His final ball's pretty decent as well. His crossing's pretty decent from what I've seen. So yeah, good player.
Yeah,
good player.
Yeah, absolutely balanced. I want you to keep talking though, Loki, because next one. It's one that you mentioned years ago. When he was still at Twente, then moved to Feyenoord. In the summer of 2024, So yeah, you know him very, very well. From one of the scouting reports in 2024. I think it was the summer of 2024 before he moved to Feyenoord. The season before he moved to Feyenoord, basically. Yeah.
It was a championship one, I believe, as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Is it Yiz Smal?
Smal, yeah.
Smal. Yeah, so basically, it was a while ago, right? I've not actually watched him this season because I've not watched much of the Eredivisie, to be fair. But, when I did see him, it was so good. Just again, more of an offensive option, I think. Definitely, probably out of all the kind of names we've mentioned, probably the best, I think, in terms of delivery, in terms of technical ability. A guy that relies on his he can run. Obviously, all wing backs all have to have some form of physicality to them, but certain players stand out. He stands out as a technical ball player from that left side. Again, you look at Goodmanson, he's more energy and precision in terms of running with it, whereas Smiley is more of a delivery type player, looking for the pockets, looking for Calvert-Lewin to feet kind of thing, crosses in the box. So yeah, highly technical, probably slightly different to kind of some of the names in here. A lot more technical for me. Not the best defender from what I've seen. He can be a little kind of, again, similar to Kwasi in the sense that he likes to attack more. He likes the final third. Combinations, more of the kind of tactical play as opposed to the raw defending. But again, we have Goodmanson. We're trying to find alternates to Goodmanson. We're not trying to find someone that's exactly the same as Goodmanson.
Trying to take his place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's alternates as well who can come in and impact a game differently. And yeah, again, we've spoke about him a lot. There's probably a few videos out there we've mentioned him, but highly technical player who likes to link up, likes to play long balls as well. His long balls are really good to the opposite wingers. Combinations. And I think when we look at our team, we're looking at Aronson in there or Buonanotte, a fullback or a wing back like him. Just really two good technical players in there that can create 1-2s and little movements, create little spaces for Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, he's a good player. I really like him. I've liked him for a while now. But his minutes at Feyenoord are in and out. There's a lot of good competition there. There has been for the last 2 years, to be fair. Obviously, last year was, his name, what's he called, from Wolves?
No, I don't think. Bueno, Hugo Bueno.
I was thinking Bruno for some reason. No, Bueno,
No. Because I
Hugo
was
Bueno,
talking
that's
about Moller Wolf, but Moller Wolf was
all right.
a Z, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Hugo Bueno last year. So there was quite a lot of competition. Again, he's not had that consistent run of get. He's had a few injuries as well, so that's kind of stumped it. But a very capable technical player, really technical, and I mean his delivery is really good. He's one of them players that if you have a striker and he's anywhere in the final third, that ball will go near where that striker is almost every time. We're not seeing these crosses that are going to get hoofed over every 5 seconds. They're precise. He's got a really good delivery on him. One thing I really like about him.
Yeah, and full of, by the way, full of good players. You know, Valente, Sawa,
Sauer, I
Timber,
love Sauer. Sauer's
Haji
really
Musa,
good.
Targalin too.
Yeah,
Looks
Haji
looks
Musa.
a bit like looks a bit like with the
DCL.
hairstyle. This
Yeah.
Ahmed Otsic, who is, by the way, a number 9. Let's clarify that. He's a number 9.
Yes.
Let's move forward. You know, he cannot play in other positions. It's very, very one way. You know, in a certain sense.
Yeah.
So another one, the young gem. Yeah, Mats Rust. You know,
Yes.
very tall, 1.93. You know, it's very good. It's very good. You know, we need to be there before he makes a big move to a better club like Smal did, because Smal was the one at 20 before Rots, you know, in a certain sense. He's very composed, good vision, you know, likes to get forward. He reminded me a bit, getting forward, of course, taller than him, you know, but he's a Stuart Dallas type in a certain sense, you know. They're playing with a back three, a back four, sorry, under 21s for the Netherlands, 19, but with a lot of mentality. When you see him on the pitch, he has no fear, you know. 3 assists, 2 goals this season. As you can see, basically an all-around player, heavily involved in the build-up, you know. Rots here, back 4, you know.
His brother as well, yeah. Plays with his brother, I believe, doesn't he?
Yeah, Rots here, the other one. Yeah, the 2 brothers, you know, the Rots brothers.
One thing, it was actually the last game I watched last night before I went to bed, Andrea, was, I can't remember who they were playing. It's gonna bug me. I think it was NAC.
NAC Breda, yeah. Or NAC Nijmegen. One of those 2 teams, yeah.
Yeah. But, one thing I really is very apparent, and they play a very interesting style, to be fair. He inverted a lot. So he'd be very, you know, you usually assume wing backs or full backs in this case would go outside. He liked to invert. He liked to go on the inside, you know, like a bit like Firpo did. He liked to be in the box, like you said, very calm and collected on the ball, very good technically. So he's actually pretty good. He played a lot of time near the striker, which is very interesting. And like you said, these are players that they will get a move, which will make it difficult. We're in need of someone in that role. But I guess the problem with these young players that have a lot of potential, yes, it's a Premier League move, but we have a very good wing back. That's the issue. If we had a wing back that they could probably think I can get ahead of him, but the fact is right now, it's going to be tough because Goodmanson's very good. And this is the struggle we had, right? Because we're trying to find players that are good, but players that will accept that they're probably not going to play over Goodmanson for the time being. But yeah, Rots, I'll let you carry on, mate. I like him. Very talented.
No, I've said everything, you know. I've said everything, you know. Like, as you can see, the comparison with Stuart Dallas, of course, different body type, but the involvement in the build-up is similar for me. The way he gets forward, I think it's even more technical than Dallas. Dallas used to be like a workhorse, you know, going forward. Rots, like you said, you know, moves a lot without the ball too, and distribute, and his awareness on the pitch is very good. Another one, I think we can list him, you know, as a left wing back. Looking at the formation of you know, Saint-Gilloise this season, Hussein Niang. But if you look at his career, mainly was a winger before moving.
He's a winger,
yeah. He's more like a winger, you know. In a certain sense, he's playing in that system because they need his crosses, you know. Because they have Ait Helaji, you know, not the one of final. This one is Ait Helaji, not Haji Musa. Ait Helaji, very good player, by the way. He moves in a free role similar to Aronson. They have Giger next to Promise David, so they have the space for Kalaili, another winger that's playing as a right wing back, and Niang, you know, getting more forward, you know, in that formation.
Ross Sykes there as well at right centre back. I believe they signed him from Accrington.
Yeah, Jordi. He's a Jordi. Yeah.
Yeah. Great move for him, honestly.
Yeah, and
That one.
remember another one that when we needed to sign a new goalkeeper, last summer, when I said before we signed Perry, I said Kjell Skerpen, he's now the goalkeeper of Saint-Gilloise because they have a partnership with Brighton, of course. But yeah, as you can see, more offensive minded. One worry for me, of course, he's very pace. He can play on both sides. He can take his man on. He's playing in that role now. I don't know if he will adapt to the Premier League. My main worry is, of course, the height and the physicality, lack of physicality.
Yeah.
He's very fast, but that's my
Very.
main worry. And of course, more offensive. He used to be a winger in Latvia before moving to Belgium. In that sense, another one. This one can be, I think, compared to Mats Rotz in a certain sense. It's between him and Joachim Seiss, at Club Brugge. Seiss can play also on the right. More conservative, in a certain sense. I think his idea for 3-5-2 because he likes to get forward. He prefers actually to cross the ball at times, progress and cross. Is a player with awareness, like we talk about Loco, knows when he needs to make a run or stay more conservative in a certain position. The thing is, as you can see here, and of course they're playing with a back four, but I think he's adaptable also to playing as a weak back. 11 starts, 13 substitutions, so more substitution than starts. 3 times he was on a new stop. And he has the competition of size too. So he's struggling to retain his regular place. So I think moving to the Premier League as a backup will be a good move for him. But as you can see, he's a player usually involved in this area, when they get forward, Club Brugge. He stays here, and when the opportunity arises, he usually, like we've said, with Ulises Garcia, when the ball is on the right, he can follow through and enter in this area. There's comparisons to Gudmundsson, but also Rutz. The way he moves positionally, more comparable to what we said about Rutz. The way he runs when he recalls the ball, especially, is more comparable to Gudmundsson for me. So final one in Belgium, Yamar Medina. I think he has already adapted well to Europe. He moved at the start of the season for 4.8 million euros from Independiente del Valle in Ecuador. He's a player that is attacking minded. He has constant pace, free kick taker, corner taker. He's like your typical. Remember Valencia at Man United, or that type of South American, fullback or wingback. He's that type of player, So I think he might be one for the future. He's 21, first time in Europe. After moving from South America, but he's up there already well. So I think it's another one that, if needed, in terms of spending less money than compared to other players that you can get, I think is another name to keep track of, in that category. Then another experienced one, Sanusi from Porto, back four, likes to get forward. Comparison, because I don't want to dwell too much on it, especially because of the time. More comparable to Ulises Garcia, to what we said about Ulises Garcia in that sense. He's an experienced one, been in Portugal all his life, moved to 6 years ago to Porto, not playing much this season. For them, they play with a back four too. When he plays as a left back. As you can see, long career, played consistently from Porto in the past. Now he's at AFCON, was eliminated yesterday with Nigeria against Morocco. Hasn't played much. He's 28. I think a move to the Premier League when you are out of when you've lost your position at Porto, a top club playing in Europe, at the team that moving to a team that wants to stay up, wants to achieve safety in the Premier League is a good move, and will bring us experience too, because we bring in a player that has been at Porto for 6 seasons. Another one, Red Bull Link, not Red Bull Ring, the one at in Formula One. Red Bull Link, RB Salzburg, Alexa Terzic, another player that used to play in Italy actually. A balanced one, similar to Meyer, similar to Rutz in that sense, more physical compared to them for me, in terms of he's seen more football than them, of course, because he's 26. So that's why, you know, he's a player, a balanced player. You know, he's playing for RB Salzburg. He's also been the captain there. As you can see, a product of the Cervena Zvezda, then moved on to Grafičar, then Fiorentina, Empoli, and then RB Salzburg. You know, he's found his place there. You know, he will be okay to move and be a backup 100%. He's a Serbian international, balanced player. Again, we keep saying the same things, but we established at the start the criteria, so there's not much to say. You know, I think he will be all right to move from the Austrian Bundesliga. The last time we signed a player from there, you know, it was in order for him to become a starter, you know, in our side. Rasmus Christensen, of course, I'm talking about. This time, let's sign him to become a backup. But again, experienced player, plays for Serbia, plays for RB Salzburg, you know, so as a backup, it will be absolutely all right. Staying in the Balkans, you know, moving from Serbia to Croatia, actually at the border, because he was born in Vukovar. Šimon Hrgović, he is not related to Filip Hrgović, the boxer. Plays for Hajduk Split, you know, as the typical adaptable, taskable, you know, they would call him, you know, the portable. In Italy, they would say portabile, portable fullback / wingback. Another Alioski type, like Bar. He's playing for Hajduk Split 21, Croatia under 21 international. As a contract in 2028, they are a selling club because of financial reasons. Balanced player is playing as a left back this season. As you can see, they have some good young players like Krgovic. Mlacic was about to move to Inter Milan. Some experienced player like Krovinovic, Rebic. Shigur, another good player, plays for Canada. So yeah, another cheap option for me in that case. And you gain a reliable player that is similar to Alioski, so a different type compared to Gudmundsson. Going into my final two, Borza, we talk about him, I think, in the scouting report in the summer of 2024, when we were looking for another player to sign on the left. There, you know, can play center back too, balanced player, physical. Another player that I can compare, you know, to a mix, a type similar to Nico Williams, you know, like I said, for another player we talked about earlier, you know. I written down Leif Davis too, you know, because when he gets forward, he has similar run to Leif Davis, but he's more conservative in a certain sense. We talked about him, I think, when he was 17 and 18 years old. Now he's 20, he's still there, you know. I think as an option, it will be a gamble, of course, but if you don't need to spend much, I think it's a player that will feature very soon for Romania as an international. So if you don't need to spend a lot, if you don't want to spend a lot, a good option. The final one, of course, not much to say. Arison Barros, we know about him from last season. He was very effective this season in the struggles of Sheffield United. It's not been that effective, but we know that when he was at Peterborough, he used to play in a back three, as a wing back when they were playing with a back three too, with when they're back three with Norney Edwards, these players, you know. So again, if you're looking at the championship, my top pick in the championship was Victor Christiansen, but he's injured, of course. He had a knee injury for Leicester. Sheffield United are not going up, so if you're looking to spend less and get a play from the championship, I think Barros is a good solution, you know. And that's all on my part, yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. Right. Yeah, before we end, I'll just quickly go through my list. And most of them we've done in that part, to be fair. Yeah, most of them are there. There's just one or two. And this is, I'll show you what we're working with here. So this, I don't know why he's green. I've already watched him. So if the thing is green like that, it's just me being lazy. I should have changed them. So basically, the 1 minute. There we go. Why are you green? My brain black. There we go. So this is what we're looking at. So people like Archie Brown, another good player that I quite like, injured. Obviously playing for Fenerbahce as well, who I believe in the Champions League.
Just moved there last summer. Gang.
So this is the problem we're having as well. Like again, I know Andre.
Yeah, I know.
Injured. Felix Agu as well, injured. Michel Bakker, injured. And then there's a few more. Yeah. Like there's a young player probably going to go to Chelsea by what I've seen online. But this is kind of the solution we're in. So there's a lot of good players that we can mention. You know, I've always liked Maro Jr., for example, at PSV. Teo Romans is just, I believe, on the verge of going to Rangers. That's another player I quite like. But there's loads here. As you say, a lot of them we've already spoken about. A lot of them have just had moves, so that's the problem here. Jordi Mayengo is one I really liked until Andrea told me that Freiburg play in Europe, which I didn't actually know because I'm rubbish. Which is gutting because he's a player I actually really like, would bring decent balance down that side as well. But again, maybe that's a summer thing. This is the problem. Obviously, Nathaniel Brown is really good. We're not going to get him. A lot of these players here. Again, look, these are the players that we've already mentioned. Luca Netz as well. Bradley Loco as well. There's quite a few. But just so you people, again, Atora plays for Monaco, who are in the Champions League, so very difficult one to do. Just a player I like as well. Obviously, Mats Rott's there as well. Jordan Boss is one as well that I think's doing quite well at Feyenoord in I believe his first season. It might be second. I can't remember. I think it's his first. Yeah, he's just arrived. He's obviously just arrived, but he's a player that there's actually quite a lot of similarities to Gudmundsson for me, both physically and technically. So he's one that maybe in the summer I might speak about a bit more. I really like him, but he has just joined. So yeah, there's some more there as well from the other leagues that you guys might be interested in. There's Niang that Andrea spoke about. Yeah, just to show people basically. If anyone wants to screenshot this and have a look. Obviously, some of these names were just players I like or players I've seen. I'm not saying we're getting them. As you can see, the realistic ratings are red, which is realism. As you can see, there's a lot of reds, so don't worry, I'm not deluded. They're just players that I've seen and I wanted to put in the database just so they're there, because you never know what happens. We might qualify for Europe. I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this, Andrea, before we...
I've talked enough first and the second. There's some players that I haven't mentioned, but you've mentioned them, like Sentner, these up top. You had others like Merlan was mentioned, but I just moved there, to run another one that I like. Makengo, I really like him, but like I said, they're playing in Europe and he's playing basically all the games. So even Nathaniel Brown, another good player. But again, they're playing in the Champions League. Pras will be my one of my top picks, honestly, to be fair, but for his adaptability. So
just other as well, I haven't actually mentioned Aaron Zentner as well. Is that how I said that right? Zentner. Yeah, plays for obviously Wolfsburg, just arrived there. He's a player as well that we spoke about just before. I didn't actually know he just arrived as well. Watched him last night, really impressed with him, good balance, similar to Gudmundsson in that sense. So he's another one. And just one more I want to mention. Where is he? It's French, yes. Jacques Icome from Angers is a player I also quite like. Quite wasted there. I watched last night. He wasn't really used very well, to be fair, in that league. I think he needs a move, to be honest. I think he's got quite a good physical profile to him, and his movement is quite sharp and quite impressive. But he needs to develop somewhere where he's actually going to be used positively. I didn't like his role. I think he was quite wasted. Just my thing. But he's another one as well. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of it. Look, you can see I've got for every position, but maybe they'll come another day. But I hope you guys enjoyed.
The JD archives, and the temple.
Yeah.
These are the archives, and we have proceeds starting to steal them.
Everyone wants to see this one. Everyone wants to see gems. But anyway.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. We'll move on. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, Andre, thanks for the work, mate. I massively appreciate it.
Thanks. It was like I said, energy drainer. It was the energy drainer for me too, doing all these graphics. I won't lie, honestly. I'll be very frank. It was energy draining, honestly.
It's hard work, man. It's hard. Well, we don't have to do attacking players next week because we signed one. So we talk more football next week. I mean, maybe we'll just mention. We could just mention a few names of players we like, just general names of players, maybe to look out for in the future or in the summer. We could just do that. It doesn't need graphics. We can just mention them, and just some gems to throw out there for people to go research and have a look at. Maybe we could do that because there's a few that I want to talk about. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. This will be up hopefully tonight. I will get this up as soon as we're done here. I've got to work. Thank you again, Andre, for the time.
Thanks, man. Always a
Anyone,
pleasure too.
I appreciate everyone as usual. You're all absolute legends. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week after the game. Hopefully, we'll have something positive to speak about. But yeah, see you guys in a bit. Bye bye.
Bye.